Hello, KKC Consulting viewers. We're back with another episode. Welcome to season 2 of KKC. I tried making some changes around, but let's get started. We have our consultant from the very first episode. He's going to be walking us through how to communicate like a consultant. Now, Aish, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
No, thank you so much, Amar. Just so we could kind of jump in and answer that question, how to communicate like a consultant. I think one thing we kind of want to keep in mind is having like a top-down approach. So to explain what that is and how that's maybe different from how we speak on an everyday basis, being top-down is where you're saying your recommendation or you're saying the main point of whatever you're planning to say first, and then you follow it up with like perhaps like three to four key points that are supporting your argument.
Let's see.
So, like for example, like on a daily basis, if you were to ask me about my day, instead of me going saying, "Yeah, I went to the store, then I had to go take the train to get to work," I could be like, if you ask me the question, "How was my day?" I could be like, "My day was good because of three reasons. A, I was able to go to the store early, so I was able to get my errands done.
Mhm.
B, the train came on time, so I was happy about that. And C, I ended work early." So it's kind of just shifting the way you speak and being more structured and being top down. And this is something that they look for in interviews when you're doing a case interview or a behavioral interview. And this is something that the consulting industry expects on a daily basis when you're speaking with your team and when you're speaking with your clients.
All right, Aish, just a really quick follow up. Can you give us an example of an experience that you did the top down approach in your professional life?
Yeah, I think I could bring an experience when I used it during a case interview. I think that might be helpful for a lot of your viewers who are thinking about recruiting. So to like briefly go over what the case was, it was like a simple M&A type of case where like a client was thinking about buying another company, and I had to kind of give my recommendation after solving the case and doing all the analysis. And I used that top-down approach in my recommendation. So I said, I'm trying to remember, but I basically said that the client should purchase this company A, for example, for three specific reasons. The first reason being is that the market that this company is in is a growing market, so it's worth for us to invest our money in it. Second, it seems to be profitable without us supporting them, implying that there's very little of us in order to kind of help them with cash flow. And thirdly, because there's synergy with this company and our other portfolio companies. I'm kind of just making up the response on the spot, but what I'm kind of trying to display here is I use that top down approach to kind of take this ample of work we did during this case interview and summarize it in a way that you understood exactly what my point was. You knew where my mindset was and you understood what my final recommendation was.
That's perfect. That's amazing. Thank you for bringing that down. Do you have any other tips for some of our viewers on how to communicate apart from the top down strategy?
100%. I think in order to really be a good communicator, whether you want to do this in consulting or just in
Hmm.
general, is to actually be a better listener.
Right.
I feel like if you're an active listener and you're listening to what someone is saying to you and really processing the words that they're saying and being able to kind of analyze and understand what they expect from you,
Hmm.
you're better able to communicate because you're better able to give them an answer they were actually looking for.
Right.
I feel like maybe some people may have the impression that a good communicator is someone who talks a lot. I would disagree. I would say a good communicator is someone who can speak in a succinct manner,
Hmm.
in a way that they're answering your question with the least amount of words possible.
I agree 100%. In episode 6, when David Fabian came on, he also talked very heavily about listening, right? Listening is a superpower, and I strongly believe this just because with listening, you can reduce the amount of words you speak. And that's honestly a skill you have to take for the rest of your life, whether it's sales, consulting, etc.
100%.
Thank you so much for going over that. Can you give us some more practical advice on how to become a better communicator apart from the top down approach?
Yeah, I think some tangible advice is in order to get better at anything, you just have to do it.
Right.
So just put yourself in like positions and places where you're constantly communicating, perhaps in a leadership role, in group projects, or any other sort of activities you're involved in. Like perhaps someone may say just read a bunch of resources and materials on like how to be a better communicator. However, I feel like you just learn much more by doing and taking feedback as you go along with it.
Right. I feel at the end of the day, there's so much planning you can do before you actually have to start doing, right?
Right.
Ian talked about it in our fifth episode, I believe.
Okay.
He went down the advice that listen, you can listen to as many podcasts as you want, you can take as much material as you want. At the end of the day, you just have to start doing. So, can you give us a little bit of insight as to whether professional or personal? as to how you decided, you know what, I want to start doing.
Yeah, I think I started early on, like back when I was in elementary, that I wanted to be a better communicator. And I actually threw myself in like public speaking competitions
That's amazing.
where you would have to like memorize a speech and kind of like present it in front of like a large audience. And that was very daunting at the time. I don't even think I was a teenager when I was doing this.
Wow.
But I think it really helped me develop the confidence to speak in a crowd, but also articulate my thoughts early on that even today I still feel that I'm kind of benefiting from that experience.
Right. It does get a lot harder when there's so many people watching you. I can relate this to another experience. I was at Waterloo Case competition
Yeah.
2 months ago, I want to say.
Mhm.
And over there, we had to present because we got to the finals, right? So we had to present in front of like 200 students and then judges who have like 10, 15 years of experience. It was really daunting. But what I decided is that, you know what? I'm going to practice what I've learned. Now, I want to reflect this question back on you. Can you tell us what you would do if you were in that situation?
I think irrespective, like when I was doing it when I was younger, and if I were to do that now, I still think I would get the nerves. I still think I would get anxious. I don't think that's something that just goes away. It's more so about how do you kind of handle it in the
Right,
situation. And I just tell people this once you start, it just feels like a lot easier. I feel like the whole scariness of like public speaking or presenting in front of whether a boardroom of like executive members or a bunch of students or judges, the anxiety is just the buildup of you having to do it.
mhm,
But once you actually start and you just kind of get into the rhythm of things, it's a lot better.
right,
And secondly, it's also about your preparation. I feel like the more anxious you are, it may be reflective of a lack of preparation. So if you just prepare as much as you can, I'm sure once you start presenting and speaking, it'll feel a lot easier.
right. Another point I wanted to touch base on is I had a friend actually who, during the case competition, tried to memorize everything rather than kind of freeloading it, going on his own pace, just having a few bullet points memorized, right? Do you mind giving us a bit of insights? Would you rather memorize something or would you kind of go with the flow, memorize a few bullet points here and there?
I would say in the context of like business presentations,
Hmm.
I steered away from memorizing. Obviously, when I was doing that public speaking, you had to memorize your entire script.
I see.
But in terms of like a business presentation, it's more so I feel like you should just know the content because you created the content. If you created a certain slide and you added those bullet points and those key analysis and data points, you should be able to speak on it. So this is my personal opinion, and perhaps people do it other ways. Like when I were to give a business presentation, I wouldn't even have cue cards with me.
I see.
I would just, take a peek at the slide and I would remember the work that I was doing and what I was trying to convey. And then I would just simply try to convey it. I feel like that comes off a bit more natural. Obviously, it does require some level of preparation, of course. But like I said, if you truly understand the material that you created, you should be able to present. And the reason I'm against memorizing is because instead of really trying to engage with your audience and communicate your findings, you're just remembering what you
Right,
said,
right.
and it could kind of come off as robotic in a way. I feel like even those little ums and uhs as you're kind of thinking, as you kind of freeload it, that's still more easier to listen to than someone who's just got like a whole speech memorized and it feels a little kind of unnatural.
Hmm. Aish, a great attribute about you is that you rarely use filler words. How are you able to do that, whether it's during your consulting endeavors or just in your personal life?
Uh okay, that was supposed to be like a corny joke. I think like the key piece of advice I would give is just take pauses when you need to. We use the words like and because we're trying to think about what the next thing we want to say.
Mhm.
Instead, just take like a 2 second pause, and I feel like that helps you sound like a better communicator
Right,
because when you have like those strategic pauses, that's when people really start to listen to you because they're going to be like, okay, what is Amar going to say next?
right. A book that I've recently been reading is Never Split the Difference.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Voss talks about strategically taking your breaks, but also being able to speak in a tone that's really captivating,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's very popular in the content creation space where in the first few seconds, they won't be super duper hyped up, perhaps, but they'll be really slow and attentive with every single word they say, right? Do you feel that can correlate to consulting at all? And what I mean specifically is the fact that you need to control your tone.
Mm-hmm. I think in consulting or in any other field where you're constantly speaking, mastering tonality, and I'm happy you brought that up. The aspect of mastering tonality is extremely important because it communicates different types of emotions and how you want your listener to feel. It could communicate empathy, it could communicate compassion, energy. Just the way you say words, slowing it down or bringing it up. I feel like mastering tonality in your communication just takes it to a completely different level.
Right. I agree with you. Now, Aish, thank you so much for going over this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please keep in tune for the next part of the series. Thank you so much.